All right, welcome to today's podcast. This is Scott Engler. I'm your host, published author and thought leader on contemporary job search strategies and really optimizing LinkedIn to land that next position. So this podcast is actually based on a really well-received article that I had written earlier in the year called Tell Your Connections on LinkedIn What You Really Want, and you might actually get it. And so I felt like it would be a good time towards the end of the year to do this as a podcast, just so people that didn't get a chance to read the article could have an opportunity to listen to it in a different way. And so really what this article is just what seems to happen with 99% of people on LinkedIn when they're trying to reach out to somebody. And so one of the things that I get asked all the time by job seekers, but also by people that are just trying to network and maybe, make some different connections within their industry on LinkedIn, is they want to know how they should reach out to people that are at top level roles and what they should say and how they should say it. And what I found is most people just, it's a really anxiety-provoking idea of how do I say this to someone? Should I reach out to this person? What should I say? Blah, blah, blah. And then it's like, at some point I'm just like, just do it. You know what I mean? And like, just be honest with people. Like, I feel like it's not that difficult. And that's kind of where the title comes in, is like, tell your connections what you really want, and you might actually get it. And so I think that one of the challenges in my theory about why people seem to have such, for lack of a better term, poor etiquette when it comes to networking and reaching out to people on LinkedIn is that we all forget, and I forget too, so don't get me wrong, that LinkedIn is a professional networking site. It's like if you've ever been in a networking group or some type of, like a BNI or something that where you meet with a bunch of different people and you are introducing yourself and what you do and this, that, and the other. That's what LinkedIn is, and it's just an online platform to do that. And so it's baffling how most people forget this and act like it's Facebook, which I do get. And that's kind of one of my theories, is like we forget that LinkedIn's a professional networking site, and we forget that we need to have a different etiquette than we might have to on Facebook. And even on Facebook, if you're trying to add someone that you don't know and doesn't know you, it might help to tell them why you want to connect. I don't think there's often as big of a reason behind it on Facebook, in the sense like, people aren't doing it because they're looking for jobs or something with their business, so they may not care as much if the person doesn't receive their request. But on LinkedIn, it's like, well, when people are this frantic about what they should say, what they shouldn't say, and whatnot, it's just a good rule of thumb to understand that it's a professional networking site, and you should have a reason to connect with somebody you don't know. And what I've found, especially more recently over the last couple of years, is people usually add me for three different reasons. The first reason is they want to simply build up their, amount of connections. The second reason is that they want to build up their list of people that they could sell or send soliciting email, like outbound marketing emails to through LinkedIn Messenger. And so I'm sorry, there's four reasons. The third reason is they want to get as much information out of me as possible for free without inquiring about what it is I do for my actual business and how this is my business for the questions they ask me. And then the fourth one, obviously, is people that like genuinely understand that what I do for work and how I help people on LinkedIn and the services I provide with career coaching and career transition and optimizing LinkedIn and personal branding. And so they understand that, and they've taken the time to look at what I do on my profile and reach out about my services. So those are the four categories. Now, the challenge is that most people don't actually tell me what I want and what they want when they reach out to me. And I know this isn't I'm not unique in this way. And I actually just did like a breakout performance on Become a LinkedIn Networking Rockstar. And when I showed the audience, I showed them all the connection requests I haven't responded to yet. And the reason I was showing it to them is because I was like, look at all these requests. And there was like, over like 200 of them. And I was like, that's just in the last month. I'm like, how many of these people have actually told me why they're connecting with me? And they're like, none of them. And like there was 2 people that even just said, I want to connect with you. I was like, well, let me ask you guys this. And I asked the audience, I'm like, did this person actually tell me what they wanted? And God forbid how they could support me in my own business, because that's the truth. And that's where I went back to, was like, when you go to a networking event, when you're trying to collaborate with people or connect with people, the good networkers is like you try to build an alliance, and even if you don't necessarily have any business to refer to that person yet, you learn about what they do. You know, like I know in BNI you have a meeting with people, and you kind of learn more about how they help people. And you do this so you could support them down the road, and ideally they could support you. So it's a give and take. And I think that's what so many people forget about with LinkedIn, is like everybody's thinking about themselves and whatever their own motives are and whatnot, and they're not even thinking about how they could support the other person. And regardless of that, I want to focus again more. I know I got a little digressional, is for you and how you could tell your LinkedIn connections what you really want. Because the truth is, the reason I brought up that example is nobody of those, whatever 205, 210 people told me what they actually wanted. None of them did. And I didn't know any of them. That's why they didn't get, I didn't accept the request. And so it's interesting why people would think that they would get added for somebody, and the truth is like, I'm not that special, but like if you're reaching out to somebody and you actually there's a real reason for it, for that person in particular, tell them what you actually want. And so, I think most people understand, especially if they have more followers and more requests, is like, I don't add people anymore that I don't know, because honestly, the amount of spam, the amount of outbound marketing is ridiculous now. And truthfully, if it's not that, it's people bombarding me with questions that they could read through 75 of my articles, and they could look at an article. I'm not saying that to be a jerk. I'm just saying that in reality is like, I don't have, if I answered every single question that somebody asked me on LinkedIn that is part of services that other people pay me about, first of all, so it's not really fair to give them the same time and insight that I'm taking away for my business with clients, is I wouldn't have a job. You know what I mean? I wouldn't have a business. And so I think that really what people need to understand is you'll get a lot further on LinkedIn and sending requests and doing in-mails by being upfront and honest. And so the example I like to use is, people will ask me all the time, is like, well, Scott, how in the world did you connect with like people like Lou Adler and JT O'Donnell, who are, if you know the industry, are like not only the top leaders in recruiting and career development, but they're also happen to be 2 of the top 20 most followed people on the entire planet, right? So it's like the CEO of LinkedIn, Richard Branson, and then they're like number 12 and 14 most followed people out of like whatever 550 million people. So like, Scott, how in the world did you get in touch with these people and have them interview with you for your books and this, that, and the other? And I told them, well, it certainly didn't it didn't include me sending them a blind request and just pray that they read my mind and somehow know that what I wanted from them. I messaged them. I sent them an email. I paid for a premium subscription because to me it was worth it to invest an extra $30 to, collaborate and connect with the top professionals in my industry and write a great book with great insight. So I sent them an email and I told them what I was doing, and I told them why I was reaching out to them, and I told them, what I thought they might be able to do for me. And I did it in a way where I said, hey, listen, this is, I'm writing this book right now because I haven't found many other contemporary job search strategy books, and I'm a big fan of your work. And what I'm looking to do is I'm looking to interview the top leaders in the world in these areas so I could provide readers with expert insight. And so I'd be honored if, we could take like 20, 30 minutes at some point, and I could ask you some questions on, what your opinions and insights are on how things have changed in these industries over the last 5 to 10 years. And so that's what I did. I told them exactly what I wanted. I didn't sugarcoat it. I didn't send them a blind request. I didn't try to pretend like there was something that I was trying to do for them that I wasn't. I didn't, so it wasn't like I was like, oh, this is what I'm going to do for you, sir, when I'm not being truthful. The truth is like I wanted their help, but I wanted it to help other people. So the thing is at the end of the day, I know people are always, a lot of people, I should say, overthink what they should say to people in an email, especially for people that are looking to connect with like executives or people when they're job searching or looking to switch positions. And the truth is I would most people could benefit just from being honest and direct. That's it. Just being straight up, telling their connections what they want. Hey, sir, I'm looking for, I love your company, and I thought that, I wanted to let you know who I was by reaching out. If there's any questions you have, please let me know. Even though the CEO generally wouldn't be the first person to contact if you're job interviewing. But I think it's better for people to just get in the habit and practice reaching out to people. So something that I would, recommend is instead of reaching out to the scariest person for you first, would be reach out to somebody, practice it with other people, practice it with strangers, or just obviously like I would do it when you could be sincere, but like practice it, I guess what I'm trying to say is like with people that might not be as intimidating, so you could have an easier time being direct and honest. And one thing I would also recommend, and this is guys, if you're listening, this is how you get yourself to become a LinkedIn networking rock star. Because believe me, not only from my own experience for the last 6 years, but talking to people like JT O'Donnell about these kind of things, and other people that have millions of followers and what their experiences are, you will be the exception if you could actually take the time to look over what that person's business is and comment on it, and maybe how you know somebody that you could refer to in the future, or any way you think you could add value to them. That's really what networking is about. If you look at Networking 101, how could you add value to that person's organization, that person's business, what their professional endeavors are, and maybe what you hope to get from them in return, or whatnot. You know what I mean? And so most people, honestly, like 999 out of 1,000 seem to only be concerned with what they want, and they don't even tell people what they want, so they're not going to really get the help. Or they do what other people do, which is just reach out and demand help for things that that person gets paid to do, which is also very unprofessional. And so I think there's just it's like look at what you're asking, do your research, and if it's important to you, think about how you could add value to that person. And one of the examples I gave in the article that I wrote was even if I wanted to give an example to somebody, people, so it's even if your intention was that you wanted my insight on job searching or something like that, and what most people do is they'll reach out, hey Scott, loved your articles, love this, I would love it if you could help me with my LinkedIn profile, I'd love it if you could help me or with my if you could give me any tips? Okay, so this example, so it's, could you give me any tips or insight or advice about job searching to help me? Well, here's the challenge with that. That's a very, very broad statement. Can you give me any tips or insight into job searching? There are so many different stages and aspects of job searching. I have no idea who you are. I have no idea what your goals are. I have no idea what you're trying to accomplish. And I have no idea what your challenges are and what's going on for you. So while I obviously don't have the time to be your coach if you're not willing to invest in a service that other people are paying me for, right? Because that's the value in that, is it takes a lot of extra time and assessing and conversations and calls for me to know what your situation is and what your individual needs are. However, for this example, you're struggling to get past one place. So the example I gave was, instead of doing that and asking for general tips or insight and advice, which half the time I don't respond to because it has really that there's no way I'm going to respond to it, is tell me a specific thing that you're struggling with. So if somebody took the time to think out what they were going to say and they said, Scott, I was looking at your articles, I couldn't find an article on this subject, but I'm really struggling with my job interviews. I've had 5 in the last month, and I've only gotten called back for one of the companies, and I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I'm not getting any good feedback. Do you have any articles or content on this subject that you think might help me? First of all, I want to let you know, out of all the inquiries I've gotten over the years, no one has ever been that specific and direct. Isn't that crazy? I can't count how many inquiries or people that have said, oh, could I have some tips or insight? Nobody has ever been that direct. So if they told me what they really wanted, and that's the point of this, if they told me what they really wanted, which was, I need some tips on job interviewing skills or based on your articles. So they're already you see how it just feels different? They're being considerate. They've already taken the time to try to find it on my profile, and they haven't been able to. And the truth is, if I did have extra time and someone messaged me something like that, the chances are I probably would go through my articles and try to find one that I think would help them and say, hey, thanks for reaching out. I think this would be a great article for you. And then they get what they want, right? Like they asked for it, and I really appreciated their consideration and how they took time to really think through their question. And if I did have the extra time and I was able to take 5 minutes to look through the articles and find one that I thought would help them, then I would. And so that's where you could really apply this principle, is think about the other person that you're messaging to. Think about someone like JT O'Donnell, who probably gets 50 messages a day from people trying to get information from her or take up her time, and the same way that, not as many people, but people do that to me, and I'm sure people do to CEOs or other people that you're trying to in-mail. And so consider that. Consider what they're experiencing on their end, and consider ways that you could bring value to them too. If you want something, think about how you could be a person that adds value as well. Because I'll tell you the truth, is the other thing that's been happening a lot for me recently is I'll have people reach out to me, Scott, I've listened to some of your content, I've listened to some, I've been reading your articles, I really enjoy them. How could you help me on my LinkedIn or something like that? Or do you help people on something where it's this very general question, how do you help people on your LinkedIn? Or do you think you could help me on my LinkedIn? So when people say this, my first thought is they aren't that serious about getting help in this area. They're not going to be a good client. They're not proactive. If you couldn't take 3 minutes to look over my profile and to read the services I do on LinkedIn, and then message me and ask me what I do for people on LinkedIn, then I really don't want to do business with you. I mean, even if you're, I don't care about the money. It's clearly you're not the kind of person that is proactive, is responsible, and could take the extra time to do it. And it really is. It does get frustrating. It's and trust me, I get it. We're all busy, but if this is something that's important to you, you will take the time to look at what I actually do and not just like message me and like, do you help people on LinkedIn? How could you help me? Yes, I do. And yes, I've spent hundreds of hours rebranding myself, putting together a website, putting together a lot of information that bullet points a lot of the core things I do for people on the LinkedIn. So when you asked me that question, I knew for a fact that you didn't even have, it obviously didn't seem like it was important enough to you to actually look at what I do. You just sent me that message. So you're really already, you're sending a bad first impression to me. And that's what a lot of employers, if you're listening to this and you're a job seeker, employers I talk to and have interviewed for my books complain about the same thing. It's like when they're interviewing a candidate and they're asking the employer questions that were like very clearly outlined on either maybe a document they gave them or on their company summary. It's like it's just really conveying the message that you don't really care about having an active role in your success. You didn't take the time to look over the company website. This position's probably not that important to you. You're probably interviewing 20 other places. And you know what? This is my company, and I don't really want to hire someone like that. I want to hire someone that's going to be a good fit and really wants to work here. So you need to think about those kind of things. It's like, tell me what you want, but like, do your homework, do your research. Like, why are you reaching out to this person in particular? And if you really want it, take the extra time to do these things, because the truth is most people don't. And that's why I'm being adamant about it, is most people don't. Most people don't take the extra time to look over what you do, what the company does. They want to take all the information from you they can. They don't think about ways they could give back. And this goes with companies too. So look at this as your networking too, is how could you be a give and take networker? How could you be someone that adds value to other people? And sometimes, there's not always not every relationship you're going to have on LinkedIn is going to be mutually beneficial. But what I found is there's plenty of times where I'm willing to help people in my network without expecting anything in return, and then it comes back to me in some way where, someone supports me and I don't really necessarily have anything to help them with. You know what I mean? And sometimes it's just about timing, is like, I may very well have something to help that person with in the future, but just not at that moment. So it just helps to start by being honest with people, by being direct, by telling them what you want to do, what you're wanting, and considering them too. Remember that they're on this site like you are to somehow advance in their business, in their professional development, and their career. And consider ways that you might be able to enhance their life for, whatever it is that you're requesting of them to do for you. So be a person that's known for giving as well. And my experience has been that because I've been able to do that a lot, is like then when it comes time when I need help, I'm able to receive the help from people, because I know that there's been plenty of times where I've, helped people in my network without expecting anything in return. So I just see it as a way, this is coming back to me from, all the times that I've been willing to support other people and help them. So that's all I got today. I hope this was helpful for you. If you are listening, well, here's a good way to practice. And you know that you're really looking for that extra help optimizing your LinkedIn, creating a strong professional brand where over 95% of recruiters really are looking for you. And most, job seekers aren't optimizing their LinkedIn in the way that's going to attract the right recruiters, and you are an executive or director or someone where you know that the competition is fierce and the availability of roles is low, then I would recommend send me an email that says serious inquiry, and we could talk. And if it makes sense, we could talk about working together and how I help people with their professional branding on LinkedIn and optimizing their LinkedIn and attracting the right recruiters and opportunities. So that would be the next step. And otherwise, you could subscribe to me here on YouTube, and I hope that this was helpful for you. I know this was some tough love here, but really it's stuff that people need to hear, because I feel like a lot of people don't talk about it. And I know that I was pretty adamant in the article about some things, and a lot of people really appreciated it. So hopefully you take the good from this and you could leave the rest. All right, take care.